Okay, so hello, my name is Amanda Martinez, and through the Division of Academic Support of Inclusive Excellence here at the University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh, we are hosting a series of discussions focusing on how COVID-19 has impacted various marginalized populations. And then the overall goal of the series is to bring the community together, create a space to discuss the inequities that vulnerable populations are experiencing during this time. And then today we are focusing on the impact COVID-19 has had on the homeless population in our community. We have Denise here from the Day by Day Warming Shelter here in Oshkosh. And then to start off, could you please introduce yourself, your position, and what your organization does?
Sure. Hi, I'm Denise. I do the program coordinator role at the Day by Day Warming Shelter here in Oshkosh. I originally started out as a frontline staff member and then loved it here so much. I quit my other full-time job and hopped on board here full-time doing the resource coordination. And then as of this previous summer, jumped into the program coordinating. So my role here is covers a lot. So I bring in the new programming for the shelter. So that helps to guide guests on their way to self-sufficiency in the realm of like housing, employment, financial stability, sobriety, and other facets as well. But I also do the resource coordination. So I sit down and I work with our guests one-on-one to kind of guide them through those processes, seeing what their goals and their interests are. And it's all participation driven. They kind of get out what they put in, and it's all a optional process for them to participate with resource coordination. But Day by Day is overall provides temporary emergency shelter to those experiencing homelessness. So their homelessness experience could be just one night until their apartment is ready to move into, or sometimes it's years and years. So we see both ends of the spectrum and help them at any stage. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so your organization helps a vulnerable population. And how have you seen, why is the homeless population one of the most vulnerable populations during the pandemic?
Sure. I think in the way that we see it here, in the two ways that kind of come up for me mainly, is given that they're homeless and our shelter closes down during the day, we're not open from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Oh,
So
okay.
all during that day then, due to COVID, a lot of businesses are closed. Mm-hmm. Or they're not able to go in anywhere. And even other services they may go to utilize in the Human Services building or Housing Authority, for instance. It's like front desk only. You talk through the door or the intercom, and they're not able to get the connection to services that they need unless it's via appointment. But a lot of them are not able to call and make appointments, not having phones or access to internet. So it's a real struggle for them to get the services and to stay warm during the day.
Mm-hmm. And besides the lack of services that they experience, have you seen any other impacts that they have faced during this time?
I think socially it's really rough because they don't get to go into places much and have these interactions, and they are forced to be outside most of the day. So I think that's the biggest aspect there. And
then do you think that plays also a role in their mental health?
Yeah, for sure. We do have one guest this year in particular. He was here with us last year as well. But he's so many emotions showing this year. And I think part of it is due to that. He sees his fellow homeless individuals on the streets all day, and he takes that so hard. He dresses appropriately for the weather and is a very rough and tumble person, but he recognizes those weaknesses in other people, and he finds it very emotional, their experiences.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And then did the pandemic impact the way in which your organization was able to give services to the homeless population?
It was kind of different where a lot of shelters changed their capacity or maybe even closed. For the month of May in 2020, Day by Day collaborated with the city of Oshkosh, and we opened up 24/7 emergency shelter for the month of May, the whole month. So that was a big undertaking. We have a gym space that we're able to utilize above our shelter. So we were able to distance the beds 6 feet apart and plan for all that, distance our dining tables downstairs. We instituted, of course, everybody wearing the mask and distancing while in shelter, put in place those plasticky partition things that you see a lot of places now, posted our CDC guidelines and implemented extra cleaning. So it was just that little learning curve for our guests and enforcing with the masks, but now everybody's on board and it's pretty smooth sailing.
I'm glad that you were able to find like ways to be able to still effectively meet the needs of your population.
It was so important for us because being that like last resort shelter in Oshkosh, we do take people under the influence of drugs or alcohol actively or experiencing mental illness episodes, and really without day by day, those people would be on the streets, possibly not able to stay at father cars due to certain regulations they have, you know, so it's so important that we keep the capacity for all of the guests to try to serve everyone.
And how would you say capacity has looked like throughout the pandemic?
So last year, it has been different because last year we had to turn people away 297 times. So that's gigantic for us. And this year it has been less. And we've been full a lot less, but I think it's partially due to the eviction moratorium. Those evictions not being able to go through, people not having their utilities turned off, with inability to pay right now. And also the fact that I think loved ones or family and friends are more accommodating to the situations right now. Maybe they're concerned about that individual catching COVID, being in a shelter setting, maybe something like that. It's kind of hard to explain right now, but maybe next season when we open, we'll hear the stories and recognize where those shifts are like happening. So maybe we'll see.
Yeah, for sure. And then has there been enough staff and volunteers to effectively like be able to run the organization and serve the population?
Yeah, at Day by Day, we've been seeing that we do have a good balance of volunteers. Some of our older volunteers, of course, are playing a little more safe and not coming in. And we did limit our meal teams to just 5 or 6 people instead of kind of maybe the 10 or 12 that were coming before. So those have been going pretty good. And if meal teams are uncomfortable serving, they can drop the meals off and then we get staff to serve the meal. But volunteers are going pretty good. But in the beginning of COVID, when we first opened up our doors, October 15th of 2020 for this season, staffing was sort of an issue, not so much, not at all due to COVID cases at the shelter, but just their outside exposures. So everybody's got their life outside of work, and sometimes it's going to that family event and then finding out your uncle or, you know, what have you, you know, just coming in those contacts. So then those staff quarantine and then we have to get those shifts covered, but probably literally what everybody else is experiencing.
Yeah. So since you mentioned like you're limiting the amount of workers, have you still been like kind of getting volunteers interested to come help out?
Yeah, every night we have 2 hospitality volunteers, pretty consistently, always 2, and that was typical of last year as well. So I think we see a good balance. In the beginning, it was a little more rocky, but I think even people now where everybody has the information they need to make decisions for themselves, you know, so some people are comfortable and we have more than enough people able to take those shifts. So it's really great to see that.
Yeah, I'm glad that's the case.
Yeah, me too. It'd be rough otherwise. We rely on volunteers so much, so it makes a huge impact.
Do you know how, like, is there any other ways like the Oshkosh community is supporting this population?
They definitely are, and it is our goal of Day by Day to have a new shelter with a 50-bed capacity for 2022. When we open for October, I think that's like our target goal. So the community is so supportive. They recognize that the need for Oshkosh to have a space for our homeless population is huge. And we do, with a lot of places having been closed, you know, then it's, you know, how can Day by Day extend our services? Well, we're a small team and we really try to do our best, you know, so they recognize when they come to us that we can't maybe solve all of the little intricacies that they want us to without that permanent spot, the funding, the staffing, all of that. So I think it is a big wake-up call COVID has been about the needs in our community, and how that everybody can work on that common goal. So.
Well, that's interesting to hear that you guys are going to try to get another shelter, and then that will help like more people in the community.
Yeah, and then we'll be year round, because right now we only operate October 15th through April 15th. So offering it in the summer too would be amazing. And a lot of people don't realize how hard the summer is on homeless individuals. And I guess I didn't really either until this previous summer, but we would do street outreach services and kind of go looking for them, deliver water, food items, toiletries, that sort of thing. And I don't know, seeing the sunburns and the bug bites when you can't escape those summer elements is almost as dangerous as the winter. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be extremely helpful for the summer.
Yeah, for sure.
And then what kind of resources and support is available to the homeless population from your organization, like during this time?
So we provide all of the support for the emergency needs, obviously shelter, showers, laundry, food, that sort of thing, safety. That's pretty huge. But through the resource coordination program, we work on all those other facets, as I mentioned, like the housing, jobs, financial stability, and it's remained pretty much the same. Yeah, I think it was important for us to kind of offer that consistency. And being that they had nowhere else to turn, it was important for me that those guests are still getting connected to those resources, even though it may take a little longer to see some action or get that call back or that appointment made. You still have to offer the assistance to guide them through these steps. So I'm thankful that I was able to remain consistent with that, and I don't know, really give them the support that they need that they're not able to get everywhere.
Yeah, especially with like how COVID has made various changes. That's like good that you guys are able to stay consistent.
Yeah.
And have the resources to do so. And how has testing looked like for the homeless population? Like, have they been able to access testing?
Yeah, at first I think we were in a little bit of a panic because at first you couldn't really get tested in Oshkosh, and then they opened the Sunnyview site. And I actually had to go to Green Bay to get tested. But when I called Sunnyview originally, they're like, oh, you'll have to wait 3 hours. Well, okay for me, I guess, because I have a vehicle, but a lot of our guests don't. And how are they supposed to get all the way out to Sunnyview, wait there 3 hours without a car? That's a lot to ask. But thankfully, we have a partnership with the St. Anne's Clinic next door, and they were able to get the rapid COVID test there pretty quickly, and as well as the site they had open on the Oshkosh campus here. So yes, we're able to go there. We have not had a positive case in shelter, so that's been amazing. But the testing is available, and we also have a backup plan. If somebody were to come to us with a positive case, then we are able to get them the funding for a hotel room where they can quarantine for 2 weeks and be safe. So we don't have to have that hard conversation and turn someone away to protect everybody else, but we can also offer them a safe spot too.
Well, that's good to hear. With like all the barriers they may face, they're still able to find a way to get tested. And then and support the homeless population during this difficult time.
Yeah, that's a big question. Advocating for your homelessness in the community or homeless individuals, a lot of people have a stigma or a misconception of what homeless individuals might be like, or as to why they got in their situation. And it's just, people are so multifaceted, of course, and it's never one thing that leads a person there, so I think it's keeping that open mind. You can always get involved volunteering. People can. We have an updated needs list on the website, and just supporting any local shelter or homeless efforts it's huge, and for them it's priceless. They're incredibly thankful. So really, any way people want to get involved.
Yeah, there's many ways to provide advocacy.
Oh yeah, sure.
Mhm. And then one of my last questions are, what are actions that need to be taken at either the state or federal level to support this population?
Yeah, that's a tough question for me. Funding, of course, you can give a community money, but if they're not putting it in the right places, then people may not be getting the services or help they need, not just homeless individuals, but
Mhm.
in all ways, funds need to go where it's going to make the most sense and help the most people. So money, of course. And lately I've really gotten involved in my local politics. Kind of ashamed to say I never followed it too much before, but when I did, I was like, when I started working here, it's like, wow, I need to support other people in the community that want the same things as I do. So I read up on my local candidates, and if homelessness is a passion for them, then I'm on board. That's good enough for me. I just want to have a similar mindset and see those in a position of power, be it what have you, that they're just being supportive, good members of the community. So,
And then which can help further promote better policies and stuff for the future.
yeah, yep.
And then do you have anything else you would like to share about your organization or the homeless population?
I don't think so. I feel like we covered a lot.
Mhm.
I think those misconceptions are huge, so
Yeah.
we get a lot of volunteers that come in and they're like, oh, I talked to so-and-so, it made my day, or I'm so glad I sat down with that person, I made their day. They look bummed, and, people interpret all that, and it's just,
Yeah.
everybody needs the camaraderie and conversation, and yeah.
Yeah. That makes me happy though that volunteers can really truly make a difference on these
Oh,
individuals.
for sure. Yep.
Mhm. Well, thank you so much for coming
Yeah,
today and having
no
this
problem.
conversation with me.
Yeah,
I'm sure
you're
it will help
welcome.
further educate others.
Good. Awesome. If you need anything else, don't hesitate to reach out or send an email. So,
Yeah. Thank you. Have a great
yeah.
day.
You too, Amanda. Take care.